So we were talking about iterations, and you mentioned fast and dirty.
I mean, obviously, I'm responding to the phrase "quick and dirty."
Yeah,
And what we're talking about here is doing things quickly, right?
yeah.
And doing things effectively and quickly. And and there are certain shortcuts you can take, especially in the earlier parts of the process, that will speed your time to insight up without compromising accuracy of the final output, the efficacy of the analysis itself.
Mm.
And that's because the early stages of any sort of analytical task are often tied up in things like data cleansing and doing your descriptive statistics, looking at the shape of the data, the size, the form, and what's in it, and what you can use, what you can't use, how you can pivot that in different forms. You can spend hours, if not days, trying to align your output with a data source that is trusted, so your company dashboard, because that's canonical and we assume that's correct. And so what you've got to do early on is absolutely you need to make sure you're looking at the right data and that data has a cut that's similar to that that's in your canonical data sets. You need to ballpark align it,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to satisfy yourself that it's not accidentally close.
Mm.
But what you're not trying to do is to closely align with company and finance data or whatever all the way along. What you want to do is figure out what's in that data and how you can use it and how it's valuable. And then when you start to see, well, there's something here, that's the point where you go and say, right, now I need to rewind. Now I need to go and make sure I'm using the right data, I'm cutting the right way, and I can get it to match the company dashboards.
Mm-hmm.
What you're left with is I actually only care about column A, D, and Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I now have to go only worry about those in terms of verifying my data. So I've managed to remove a whole ton of work out of the whole process by just eschewing the need to have perfection from early on and deferring that till later.
Yeah.
I mean, you must have experienced the same thing, right?
I was trying to think of a good analogy for it. The one that popped into my head is like you've got an old shoebox full of old pictures, like from years ago when we used to actually print off these things.
I really do have shoebox of old pictures.
Exactly, and they might cover a few years, and the problem at hand is, oh yeah, I want to create an album from that holiday, and it was a holiday abroad, and it was nice and bright and sunny. So you get out your photos, and you sort of you might take each pack and just kind of lay them out almost like you would a pack of cards, just fan out so you can see 6 or 7 of them quite clearly. And what you're looking for is, okay, well, which ones were about the holiday now? And we all do this as well. If you actually start going through each one at a time, you get distracted. Oh, this is, oh, do you remember that? And then you start sharing them with your partner, and you're doing this, and then you've been 25 minutes looking through the first pack, and you think, oh, I've got 27 packs to go through, and I've got to find that holiday. So the slightly better thing to do is just fan out them all and go, all right, oh look, this one's really bright. Oh yeah, that's definitely a holiday abroad. Oh, and so is this one. So suddenly you've narrowed it down. That first iteration through. It's not to say you're not going to do these other things, but you want to try and narrow down a bit first.
You want to reduce the amount of work you've got to do.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
There are definitely provisos here. You do have to be careful because if you start and you have to be really, really restrained in terms of drawing conclusions, right?
Yes.
You're going to have to fix the data before that point. But a lot of the time, what we're trying to figure out is, can we get what you want from this data, right?
Yeah.
Does this data contain the right information? Is it clean enough? Does it have other things in it that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, and I think missing data is a good example. Let's say it's weekly data. You've got a couple of weeks missing. Maybe it's over a 2 or 3 year period. So maybe that's not too bad. So you can move forward with that because, again, well, what are you trying to check? Well, you're trying to check that it's going to give you roughly the right numbers, and am I going to be able to get answers to what I need with this? So you move forward with it at that point, and perhaps that's a good dolphin moment. You go back to client and you say, okay, well, here's the data, and then the 2 data points missing are the 2 most important ones relate to this problem, and they go, I know we had a massive peak in June and you don't have one. And you go, oh yeah, that's the missing week. So obviously then you're going to go back and see if you can get hold of that. But if not, well, suddenly you're a bit scuppered, and it's that sort of balance. You want to write down a rule, when can you proceed and when can you not proceed, and you kind of have to play it by ear.
Yeah, and when to throw that data away. And I agree with you. Some of this is in a bit of really sort of intuition and experience,
Mm.
and that you over time you start to recognize red flags, common patterns, and feel your way through the data so you can get this done as quickly as possible and get insights from the right data at the right time to the right person, without feeling the need to fully structure the data and to every little
Yeah,
minutia.
yeah, and I really like the first iteration, right? Because you're checking so many other things at that point. It may well be a new data set, new part of the business you've not looked at before. So there's some familiarity, getting used to seeing stuff. All of those discussions are really useful, and it's really good to get to those quickly rather than being away and being off cleansing it. It's just a really good first touch point,
Yeah.
and it reassures everyone.
Yeah, and I think a fast data audit as well at the beginning, and I mean fast,
Mm.
is really important as well, because you can short circuit some of these conversations and some of these wasted times by going over, right, what data sets are in scope. Let's go and have a look at them. I kind of have to eyeball and
Mm.
scroll down just a few pages, and I'll spot really quickly which data that we're going to struggle with. Sometimes you immediately look at a data set and your heart sinks, and you start looking at it saying, I'm sure all the data is in there that I need, but it's going to be a nightmare pivoting that,
Yeah.
right? This is data cleansing hell. And you're starting to think, well, okay, so the business has their priorities. We want to know thing A over thing B. Well, unfortunately, thing A's data set is a total dog's dinner, and thing B's data set's in really good state. And because we've just eyeballed it, we think that the quicker win is the lower priority item, and we can absolutely parallelize these.
Yeah.
But in terms of setting expectations and maximizing actionable output, you've got to make these trade-offs and quickly judging what type of challenge that's going to be.
Again, just underlines that agile nature of not just coming up and checking, but coming up and checking, and can we use this information? Should we change our original plan? Should we change our priorities?